Thank you for staying with us. Alera, I couldn't help but, I just couldn't help it. I was actually enjoying the music.
I know.
And I was hoping the producers
would just play on.
would just play on. I mean,
we have plenty of things to talk about.
I love that guy. But then let's talk a bit of money. You know this thing about service to the people, management of public resources, and procurement. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at today. And just before we do that, let me read this and tie it in. Professor Imonokai Inakina says, this 21 years has created the hypochondria for stealing than any period in our political history because of poverty in the land. This gave rise to political jobbers, career criminals, and political bandits. He says, if we don't sort out the economy, we will be walking backwards. That's from Professor Imonoha Enakina. Hope I pronounce your name well, sir. But what he has said, in a way, ties into our conversation next, where we're looking at this new directive or guidelines issued by the Bureau of Public Procurement and the Public and Private Development Center to ministries, departments, and agencies to guide the conduct of public procurement activities of public funds spent in the service of the nation. How is this exactly working and what is it supposed to be about?
Regarding the COVID-19
Especially
pandemic.
as regards the COVID-19 pandemic. But to help us understand this, we have joining us from our Abuja studio, Engineer Isaiah Yesufu, Head Agric and Water Resources, and Ifoma Onyebuchi, Public Program Director, PPDC. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me start with the lady. Ifoma, can you just tell us a bit about this new guidelines that were issued to the MDAs?
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. And so the new guideline is a way to ensure that even in the midst of the pandemic and all the disruptions that the pandemic has caused, both economically and also socially, that procurement is going on, and that even in line with the Public Procurement Act 2007, that the ministries, departments, and agencies are maintaining the principles of accountability, transparency, and value for money. So the Bureau of Public Procurement, BP, issued a guideline a few weeks ago to all procuring entities who are procuring essential goods and services during this COVID-19 to make sure that all the information, procurement information that cuts across all the 5 stages of procurement spectrum are publicly available, that they are proactively put out. And what that means is those data, those procurement information are put out there and published on the Nigerian Open Contracting Portal, which is a system, a system that publishes procurement information across the procurement value chain. And what that means is that you and I, we are just talking about democracy and why people should participate. And the key cross of democracy is inclusion and participation. And civil society is also a key aspect of our democratization. And what that means is that this information will be openly available for anyone, as far as you're Nigerian, you're out of this country, and you have interest in how much government is utilizing in providing goods and services for your community, that you have access to those information in a timely fashion, and then you can use that to track the hospitals, the schools, the palliatives. And this is very critical at this particular time that everybody has gone into hibernation. You know, when this public service sector, because of the lockdown, everybody is at home, working from home. And, you know, it will be very difficult if you send FOI requests, and it probably may take days or weeks. And meanwhile, you need this information to know how much or what is meant for you and your family or your community. So following a paper-based approach might not work for you, depending on the urgency of the information and what you want to use it for. But the portal, the Open Contracting Portal, enables the data published in time, in real time, for us people, for us citizens, to follow the information, follow the money, follow the procurement process, and follow the intended service delivery. So that is what the guideline is supposed to achieve if eventually the MDAs that received the guideline obey the guidelines.
So the keyword there is if they obey the guideline. But we'll take a moment, then we'll come back, we'll look at the breakdown of this guideline. How does it work? Would the data be readily available? Is it going to extend beyond the COVID-19 pandemic and all that? But we'll look at all of that in a moment. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're looking at the new public procurement guidelines released by the BPP and to the MDAs for them to publish their data, especially within this COVID-19 pandemic era, to publish their data on their websites and on the Nigeria Open Contracting Portal. Earlier we had Ifeoma Ibuji tell us what that entire guideline and process is all about. But Engineer Yesufu, in implementing this, tell us about the NOCO utility. How does it work?
Thank you very much. The NOCOPO, which is the Nigeria Open Contracting Portal, it's basically just about making procurement information available to the public and to stakeholders. And it's to encourage participation by the citizens, civil societies, because if everyone has access to this information, they'll be able to track government projects and know whether they are being implemented, whether they're actually located where they're supposed to be, and all that. So the whole idea of this NOCOPO is just to make the whole process transparent, let people be aware of what the government is doing. And so that's basically what NOCOPO is all about. And it's the information it's used for, it's just for people to be aware. People can track what is going on and know how many projects are being implemented within their domain or their territory. And MDAs, that's ministries, departments, and agencies, are expected to upload all their procurement information on that portal. The portal has been in existence prior to COVID-19. It's not about COVID-19. It was there before COVID-19. But what the guideline is now is we are encouraging all MDAs to now put their COVID-19 procurements also into that portal so that everyone will be aware of how much government has expended in carrying out all these COVID-19 procurements. So it's not about COVID-19. Even after the COVID-19, the portal will still be in existence. As a matter of fact, it's interesting to note that when Nigeria developed this portal in 2018, it was put into a competition amongst 40 other countries, and our portal emerged as the most innovative globally. So it's something that we got an award for. It's a very robust system, and it's being used presently. Thank you.
You are of the Agric and Water Resources Ministry. Is your ministry making use of this yet? Is your ministry doing as you have been told by the BPP?
No, I'm a staff of the Bureau of Public Procurement, but I'm the head of Agric and Water Resources. So I handle the ministries in that sector.
Okay, so
I'm not a staff of the ministry. I'm a staff of the Bureau of Public Procurement.
So you are the ones supervising all of this. How much compliance has there been since these guidelines went out?
Well, so far we've had mainly not to. If you recall, a lot of MDAs were put on some kind of suspension because of the COVID-19, but there were some frontline ministries, MDAs, that have been carrying out procurements, particularly the Ministry of Environment, NCDC, and all that. So we've interfaced with them, and they've brought their information, and by next week, it's going to be published on the NOCOPO portal.
How can civil society organizations like yours help in this endeavor?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And so, in line with supporting government in all initiatives, I think that the role of civil societies are very crucial in ensuring compliance. Even though civil societies are not regulators and probably may not be able to enforce, but I know that we play critical role in being the linkages between government and the governed. And also ensuring, like he said, this guideline has been issued to MDAs. The data are not really generated by the Bureau, but this has to be generated from the ministry, departments, and agencies. And we know that compliance is key. Without compliance, we cannot have this information out there for people to use. And civil societies, in line with their roles, can, find pressure points to make sure that the MDAs are put on their toes. And this could be in form of advocacy. For example, civil societies can carry out strategic advocacy, monitoring who is complying with the guideline. Because if you look at the guideline, for example, you will see there's already interagency collaboration and synergy between the Bureau and other regulatory agencies and financial institutions to make sure that whomever that does not comply with these guidelines will not have any funds released for them in that particular fiscal year. So our role is to ensure that people comply. And if there is no, if an MDA received money without complying, it's a red flag that we can flag up to say, why are these people receiving funds for capital projects? Meanwhile, their data are not available for people to use. And also another role that civil societies can play is to use the data. Remember that these are all procurement data from budget to implementation. And as I'm talking to you now, we have over 700 MDAs in Nigeria. But if you currently look at the portal, I think it's only 16 MDAs that have been publishing over the past 3 years that the portal has been in existence. So there's a whole lot of work to do, which advocacy is one of them. But also realizing that we as civil societies cannot do it alone. In a country of population of over 200 people, there's need for awareness creation. Many people don't know about this portal, and we need some sort of social engineering. We need people to talk about this. We need it to be a public discourse and debate, something that should be continuously discussed by people, because procurement, like we know, is the #1 risk in government. So it's our topmost priority as a country, as a people, to make sure that people, the MDAs who are carrying out these public services, are complying with the portal. And there's need for awareness creation, which the civil societies can do using their platforms, using their social media platforms. And another thing that we could also do is to actually use the data. We know the categories of the people we have. Looking at our demography, not everybody have the tech skill or are tech savvy, or even have the internet access to be able to go to this portal, because it's a digital tool, right? But civil societies can actually mine this data set and then break them down in a way that different people can make sense of it. If it is to looking at, we have over 250 languages, breaking it down to a way that people can relate to it, link it to how it concerns me, because we as a people, if you don't actually see how this data here, data can be, very technical. If you don't see the link between this data that have been put out there and how it affects your welfare, how it affects your access to education, your access to healthcare, you probably might not want to be interested in. But when you see this later and see the figures that are being called millions of dollars, millions of nairas that are supposed to be used to provide services for you, I think you will be motivated to get involved. And these are the things that CSOs can do. Mobilize people, just like what a typical example is what the Public and Private Development Center is doing. We started recruiting what we call community-based monitors. And these people are drawn from different communities where these projects are being implemented. And because nothing is as beautiful as your own person telling you that this is our household, this is our school.
Exactly. Okay. You're really passionate about this, but let's swing this to Yusufu and ask this question, especially because the Freedom of Information Act of 2011, there are those who argue that it's not really being complied with as much as it should. There's not much information out there. I've just attempted to open the the Nokopo site on the BPP platform to see how much data there is. So, Yusufu, what is there a plan to ensure that compliance is followed through? If you compare with the FOI of 2011 and how much people are complying with that law, is there a plan to ensure that this is followed through? And what's the consequence if it is not done?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, in how things work, when there is no enforcement, people tend to slide into old habits and old practices. What we intend to do, part of my colleague here mentioned earlier on, one of the strategies that the Bureau is doing is that we're working in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Finance and particularly and the Office of the Accountant General Federation. And one of the things there, in the guidelines, one of the spots there is the fact that if MDAs don't comply with the guidelines, they may not be able to get funding, access money for their procurement. So and everybody needs to implement their procurement. So if they have that, if that challenge is in there, if that bottleneck is there, if that limitation is there, then it will also help them. It will compel them rather to proceed and comply with the guideline. That's one. Two, we're also aware that, you know, the Presidential Task Force is also monitoring the COVID-19 program nationwide. And, you know, even the ICPC is also there to also monitor the expenditures and all that, how people are implementing these things. So you see that there's a lot of collaboration from the government side to ensure that people comply with the guidelines and that these procurements carried out specifically related to COVID-19 are done in line with the guidelines. We all know that globally, this pandemic has hit every country around the world. And every country is struggling to redefine a lot of things. As they say, there's a new normal now, and things can't continue the way they used to be. Everybody all over the world is bracing up, and Nigeria cannot afford to remain the way we have been. We're also moving forward. So you see there are checks in the system to ensure that everyone complies. And the Bureau we also have a surveillance that we are going to roll out to be sure that people are following the guidelines. We have pre and post audits that we'll be conducting, along with surveillance that we do regularly to be sure that people comply with the guidelines. But more importantly, they won't have access to fund their projects if they don't follow these guidelines. You know that right now there's a lot of, because of the pandemic, government revenue has dwindled. So government is prioritizing their projects. And that funding is critical. And we need to be sure that people are complying with all these things so that we maximize every money, every kobo that government is generating. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking with Engineer Isaiah Yusufu, Head Agric and Water Resources in the BPP, and the former Onyebuchi Program Director of the PPDC, looking at the new public procurement guidelines. If you go to nokopo.bpp.gov.ng, you get more details. You can get there and get data on how the MDAs are spending their funds, especially as it regards the pandemic and in this season. So thank you so much. Sunrise will be back in a moment. Please just stay with us.